This is not simply an arbitrary number. It is a figure that, while you read these words, grow inexorably. This is the number of people who will die this year in the United States due to cardiovascular disease. It is the equivalent of completely emptying a city of the size of San Francisco. Every year, without exception. 17,900,000. This is the spooky annual global count according to the World Health Organization. 17,900,000. Hearts stop beating prematurely each year. 17,900,000 families shattered. Futures truncated. Talents lost forever. And most heartbreaking of all, the 32% of all deaths in the world have as their protagonist the most symbolic and vital muscle of our anatomy. It's as if they crashed daily 180 jumbo jets completely full of passengers, without survivors. He used to say Dr. Michael DeBakey to illustrate the magnitude of this epidemic. And yet, he continued with frustration palpable in his voice, we don't see headlines in the newspapers nor declarations of national emergency. Simply, we accept these deaths as an inevitable part of the natural order. Stop one moment and leave me ask yourself, do you know personally to someone who has suffered a heart attack, a family member living with heart failure, a friend who has undergone a bypass coronary artery disease? If you haven't answered yes yet, statistics suggest it's only a matter of time. Cardiovascular disease doesn't discriminate. It respects social status, educational level, or account banking. In his relentless advance touches all the doors. What we face is not just another medical condition in the vast catalog of human ailments. We are facing a silent epidemic of unimaginable proportions. An epidemic that, unlike COVID-19 or other crisis health services that grab headlines, advances stealthily, without media noise, infiltrating in our daily lives under the disguise of what we consider normal. The chronic stress, the feeding processed, sedentary lifestyle, nights without adequate rest. Since 1950, the heart disease has kept unwaveringly as the leading cause of death in the United States. Neither the cancer nor the accidents nor pandemics have managed to dethrone it from its macabre reign. The Center for the CDC confirms a shocking fact. 1 in 4 people dies from problems directly related to his heart. 25% of all deaths, a quarter of all lives lost. But behind these cold statistics lies a reality, even more disturbing, the emotional and social toll of this epidemic. Families suddenly losing their main breadwinner, children growing up without a father or a mother, couples whose plans for a lifetime together are cut short, talents and contributions the world will never know. Grief, incalculable, that follows each of these deaths creates shockwaves that affect entire communities for generations. And what? Truly tragic, he said, Dr. DeBakey, with a mixture of indignation and hope. It is that the immense most of these deaths are absolutely preventable. This last phrase deserves to be repeated and recorded. In our awareness collective, the vast majority of these deaths are absolutely preventable. We are not talking about an inevitable genetic condition against which we can do nothing. It is not a mysterious virus for which there is still no vaccine. It is not an enemy invincible. Cardiovascular disease, in his most of it, is the direct result of our decisions daily. It is the accumulated price of decades of small, seemingly inconsequential elections. That occasional cigarette, that just for today fast food, that exercise postponed until next week, that normalize stress as part of the job. What makes this reality is simultaneously terrifying, and hopeful is precisely its nature preventable. Terrifying because it means millions of people are dying unnecessarily every year. Hopeful because it means we can change this bleak outlook. We have the power to rewrite the destiny of our hearts, and nobody incarnated better this transformative possibility than the Dr. Michael DeBakey himself. This pioneer of the cardiovascular surgery not only revolutionized the surgical procedures that have saved countless lives, but he lived according to principles that allowed keep an extraordinarily healthy heart for 99 years. 99 years. almost a century of productive life, decades beyond of the average lifespan of your generation. And most importantly, lived with a mental clarity and physical vitality that defied all expectations about the aging that this man knew extraordinary that we ignore. What beginning ruled your daily life? What can we learn from your example, not only as a brilliant doctor, but as a human being who transcended the boundaries supposedly inevitable of the cardiovascular degeneration? This is precisely the journey we are about to embark on together. A journey towards the heart of the DeBakey, his wisdom. A journey that could literally save your life or the life of someone you love. Because in a world where every 40 seconds someone in the United States suffers a heart attack, the information you are about to discover is not simply interesting or useful. It is vital in the most literal sense of the word. Get ready to meet the man who challenged the death. Get ready to discover the secrets he kept his heart beating strong and healthy for almost a century. And, most importantly, be prepared to apply these secrets to your own life. Beginning today, same. Your heart has been beating faithfully since before you were born. Every day pumps more than 7,500 liters of blood through almost 100,000 kilometers of blood vessels. It has never taken a break. It has never failed in his mission. So far, don't you think it deserves at least that you know as protect him? Dr. DeBakey awaits you. Lake Charles, Louisiana, 1908. He, home of a family of Lebanese immigrants, is born a child whose destiny will change forever the history of medicine. His parents, Shaker and Rahija, could not imagine that little Michael Ellis DeBakey would become the most influential surgeon of the 20th century. A man whose innovations would save millions of lives and whose own existence would challenge everything we thought we knew about the human longevity. To understand truly DeBakey's revolutionary impact, we must visualize the medical landscape in which he grew up. In the early of the 20th century, the diagnosis of heart disease was equivalent practically a death sentence. The heart was considered an organ untouchable, a territory prohibited for the scalpel. The simple one idea of opening the chest of a living patient to directly manipulate his heart was seen not only as technically impossible, but as a medical blasphemy. In this context, the young Michael emerged as a precocious talent. At the age of 7 years, fascinated by the stories that his mother told him read about ancient doctors, built his own little laboratory in a yard back of his house. At the age of 12, he had read every medical book available in the local library. To the 17, entered the University Tulane determined to become in medicine, although I didn't know yet that it would revolutionize the cardiovascular surgery. Always I knew I wanted to dedicate my life to saving other lives, he would comment. Years afterward. What I didn't know was that the heart would become in the center of my professional and personal universe. DeBakey's career is simply amazing in his magnitude and scope. The numbers speak for themselves. More than 60,000 surgeries he personally performed throughout his life. More than 800 published scientific articles. More than 50 patented medical devices that continue to save lives today. In day medical consultant to virtually every American president from Harry Truman to George W. Bush. But these impressive numbers barely scratch the surface of his legacy. DeBakey not only practiced medicine, the reinvented, developed the first mobile blood bank during World War II, saving countless soldiers' lives. He designed a revolutionary bypass procedure coronary, which is standard today all over the world. He invented the concept of an intensive cardiovascular unit. He created artificial heart pumps when such devices seemed science fiction. Perhaps one of the most emblematic moments of his career occurred in 1964 when received an urgent call from the Kremlin. Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev desperately needed cardiovascular surgery, and DeBakey was the only surgeon in the world in who the Soviets relied during the height of the Cold War. This historic gesture not only exemplifies the universal respect that he inspired, but also, as his ability transcended ideological and political borders. The disease knows no nationalities or ideologies, he said DeBakey on returning from Moscow. The human heart beats the same in every chest, whether American or Soviet. It truly, DeBakey's extraordinary, however, was not just his brilliance professional, but his longevity productive. The conventional image of a surgeon is that of someone who achieves its peak in middle age and then, due to the inevitable decreased visual acuity and manual dexterity, gradually withdraws from the practice surgical active. DeBakey shattered this paradigm. At 70 years old, when the most of the surgeons they carry retired years, he continued to perform multiple surgeries daily. To the 80, he continued innovating, designing new procedures and devices. At 90 years old, he was still driving daily to Houston Methodist Hospital, participating in surgeries complex and supervising the training of new generations of cardiovascular surgeons. At 96, his mind was sharper than many of my 40-year-old colleagues. He recalled Dr. George Noon, one of his closest collaborators. His ability to diagnose complex cardiovascular problems with a simple look at the patient, it seemed almost supernatural. This longevity, extraordinary. It was not accidental nor merely genetics. DeBakey lived according to a strict set of principles that maintained his heart, your body and mind in an optimal state. Principles that he meticulously documented in his revolutionary book, The Living Heart Diet, Living Heart, originally published in 1984, and which became quickly in the Bible of the cardiovascular health for millions of people. But DeBakey's greatness transcended his professional achievements. His personal life was an equally powerful testimony to his principles. In 2005, at 97 years, fate will presented his most personal challenge, a devastating aortic dissection, ironically the same condition that he had been a pioneer, to be treated surgically decades earlier. The doctors who attended they faced a heartbreaking dilemma. Operating on a 97-year-old man, years with one condition so serious it was practically unthinkable. The chances of survival were minimal. Many, they argued that it would be more humane to allow him die peacefully, but DeBakey was no ordinary patient. Against all odds, he insisted in submit to the surgery that he claimed there was developed. The operation hard 7 grueling hours. And then, it happened at impossible. He survived. Not only did he survive, but he made a full recovery and returned to his work routine. There is no age to fight for life when still, you have a purpose, he declared. After his recovery, my work in this world, it was not over. This episode extraordinary sums up perfectly the essence of the man. Determination unwavering, confidence in the science that he same there was helped to develop, and an inner drive to live fully until the last breath. Michael DeBakey. He finally passed away at 99 years of age in 2008, just 2 months before his birthday, 100 years. Until his last days, he kept a lucid mind, a curious spirit, and a heart surprisingly strong. His death was not the result of cardiovascular disease, but simply the natural end of an extraordinarily long and full life. What makes your history is so powerful is not simply that he lived a lot time, he lived well, with vitality, with purpose, with joy, with all his faculties intact, without the weaknesses and dependencies that we traditionally associate with the old age advanced. This is the radical promise that DeBakey's legacy offers us. Not simply add years to our life, but to add life to our years. Not only avoid a heart attack, but cultivate a heart so strong that drives a vibrant existence into our final decades. His life is the proof living that the longevity. Healthy is not a dream unattainable, neither a privilege reserved for a genetically fortunate, few blessed. It's a real possibility for anyone willing to adopt certain beginning fundamentals and apply them consistently. In the next chapters, we will explore these principles one by one, not as theories abstract, but as concrete practices that DeBakey incorporated into his daily life and that we can emulate. Since his revolutionary approach to movement to its unique perspective on the work and purpose, from your method of managing he stressed to its disciplined approach to feeding. Each chapter will reveal to you a crucial component of the DeBakey method for cardiac longevity, A method that does not require technology advanced, expensive medications, no surgical interventions. A method accessible to anyone willing to do small but significant changes in your lifestyle. The human heart, he used to say. Say DeBakey. Uri is simultaneously the most resistant and most vulnerable organ of our body. You can withstand decades of abuse before failing, but once it begins to deteriorate, recovery is immensely difficult. The true wisdom is in never reaching that spot. This is your chance to acquire that wisdom, from learning directly of the teacher, of rewriting the destiny of your own heart before it's too late. Are you ready to discover how to grow a heart so strong that can beat vigorously for almost a century? If you know the secret of my longevity, do not look in the operating room, nor in the laboratories advanced. Look at my feet. This puzzling statement from Dr. Michael DeBakey, shared during an interview when he was 95 years old, initially confusing the journalist who told him was asking about revolutionary medical technologies. Your feet? What could having to see the feet of an eminent cardiovascular surgeon with his extraordinary longevity? DeBakey smiled at the confusion of the interviewer and proceeded to explain what is perhaps the most fundamental and at the same time most underrated secret of the heart health: the constant and deliberate movement. These feet have traveled approximately 110,000 kilometers throughout my life, he estimated DeBakey. And I don't mean primarily marathons or intense workouts, though I have enjoyed vigorous physical activity. I am referring to my systematic refusal for almost a century to remain still when could be in motion. This philosophy, seemingly simple but deeply countercultural in our increasingly sedentary society, constituted the cornerstone of the extraordinary DeBakey's cardiovascular health. While the most of us we have been conditioned to think about exercise as a segregated activity, those 45 minutes in the gym that compensates magically the other's 23 hours and 15 minutes of relative immobility, DeBakey understood that the human body is fundamentally designed for constant movement. His specific recommendation, documented in numerous articles and in his book, The Living Heart Diet, was surprisingly accessible. 30 minutes of walking at a brisk pace every daylight, ideally divided into 2 or 3 sessions throughout the day. Alternating rhythms, between moderate and vigorous. You don't need to run marathons, neither. Lift huge weights to maintain a heart strong, he insisted. In fact, I have observed that many high-performance athletes develop heart problems precisely because they concentrate all their physical effort in extremely intense sessions, but they remain sedentary the rest of the time. This observation, initially controversial when DeBakey proposed in the 1970s, has been confirmed by multiple modern scientific studies. The concept now, it even has a formal name, NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which refers to the calories burned during the everyday movement that is not formally classified as exercise. The research currents show that NEAT can make a difference of up to 800 calories daily between 2 people from the same weight and height, explaining why some people seem naturally maintain a healthy weight, while others constantly fighting against the extra kilos that overload your cardiovascular system. DeBakey incorporated NEAT in every aspect of your daily routine. I never used elevators when could climb stairs. He deliberately parked far from the entrances of the buildings. During his long surgical days, he took advantage of every free minute to walk through the hallways from the hospital. Even while I saw the news nocturnal at home, he stayed in movement, marching smoothly in the same place or doing small stretching. A fascinating study published in 2016 in the American Journal of Epidemiology seems to confirm the DeBakey's intuition. People who practice fidgeting, movement light and steady like swinging a leg, drumming fingers or walking while talking on the phone, show a significantly lower risk of premature death from cardiovascular causes in comparison with who remain mostly immobile, even if both groups perform the same amount of formal exercise. The human body, he explained DeBakey, evolved over millions of years under conditions that required constant movement for the survival. Our cardiovascular system is designed to function optimally when we are active the most of the time. Every hour we spend completely sedentary is fundamentally unnatural and has devastating cumulative consequences. This evolutionary view of the movement contrasts drastically with our reality contemporary. Today, the United States average spends between 9 and 12 hours a day in sitting position, in the car, in the office, in front of the television. This extreme sedentary lifestyle imposes an unprecedented burden on our evolutionary history of the cardiovascular system. When you sit for hours, he warned DeBakey, the blood circulation in your legs are reduced by up to 50%. The muscles in your lower extremities, which normally act as secondary pumps, helping the heart circulate blood, become liabilities. This strength to your heart to work significantly harder to maintain adequate blood flow. This additional stress, multiplied over decades, contributes significantly to premature deterioration of the heart muscle and the development of congestive heart failure, a condition in the one that the heart literally runs out. Revolutionary of the DeBakey's philosophy of movement is that it demystifies the idea that we need sophisticated equipment, memberships expensive to gyms or routines, complex to maintain a heart strong. His approach was radically democratic, accessible to virtually everyone, any person, regardless of their age, initial physical condition, or economic resources. To implement the DeBakey's movement philosophy in your daily life, consider these strategies practices. Establishes reminders to get up and move around at least 5 minutes for every hour of activity sedentary. Adopt the rule of the 30 minutes. Accumulate at least half an hour of walking at a pace every daylight, divided into 10 minute sessions if necessary. Transforms the activity's sedentary and movement opportunities. Make phone calls while walking. Keep meetings walking instead of sitting. Or install a standing desk that allows you to alternate between sitting and standing. Incorporate micro-exercise into your daily routine. Increase your stairs, park further away, get off public transport one stop earlier, or simply dance. Briefly while preparing dinner, prioritize activities that you genuinely enjoy. DeBakey was particularly fond of gardening and social dancing, activities that combine significant movement with pleasure genuine, which guarantees his long-term sustainability. The best exercise, he insisted DeBakey, is the one you'll actually do tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, and in 20 years. This pragmatic vision contrasts radically with contemporary culture of fitness, which often glorifies extreme and difficult to maintain routines that, paradoxically, can contribute more to abandonment than to consistency. DeBakey's movement strategy not only directly benefits the heart muscle, it also optimizes virtually all associated biomarkers with the cardiovascular health, reduces the blood pressure, decreases LDL, bad, cholesterol levels, increases HDL, good, cholesterol, improves the reducing insulin sensitivity risk of type 2 diabetes, and decreases systemic inflammatory markers such as reactive protein. All factors crucial for the long-term arterial health. But maybe DeBakey's most profound and underappreciated benefit of approach toward movement was psychological. The regular and sustained movement has a transformative impact on mood, significantly reducing levels of anxiety and depression, two conditions strongly linked with elderly cardiovascular risk. The movement not only strengthens the heart as a physical organ, he observed DeBakey, but rather nourishes the heart in his emotional dimension. There is a reason for which, in virtually all ancient cultures, the heart symbolizes not only physical life but also our emotional center. Maybe the most inspiring thing about the DeBakey's philosophy of the movement is its democratic and inclusive nature. It does not require equipment expensive, does not demand exceptional athletic skills, and can adapt to practically any initial physical condition. Whether you are a seasoned athlete or someone who has been sedentary for decades, the beginning fundamentals remain equally valid and potentially transformative. The movement is medicine, he proclaimed. DeBakey, and like all good medicine, dosage matters. Too little is ineffective. Too much can be counterproductive. Moderate consistency is the secret. This balanced perspective represents a refreshing contrast to the extremes that dominate the contemporary discourse on fitness. On the one hand, couch culture and remote control. On the other hand, the grueling marathons and training regimes designed for bodies of 20 years. DeBakey offers a path-sensible middle ground, meaningful, sustainable, and consistent movement that is organically integrated in everyday life. An approach that is not only more effective for the long-term cardiovascular health, but infinitely more accessible to the average person. And the results? At 90, 7 years. DeBakey. I walked daily through the hallways from Houston Methodist Hospital without assistance, went upstairs regularly, and maintained an erect posture that doctors decades younger than him they envied. Their heart, examined after his death at 9 years, showed surprising arterial health for someone of any age, and truly extraordinary for a centenary. The message is clear. We don't need gyms expensive, trainers personal, or extreme routines to cultivate a heart strong. We need, fundamentally, to rediscover what our ancestors never forgot. We are creatures designed for the motion. As DeBakey, he repeated frequently to his patients, if you don't do time for him, movement, you will eventually have to do time for the disease.